Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the supportive viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Shelbyville, in front of the Shelbyville Chautauqua. This old building, built in 1903, still stands. It's one of the few Chautauquas in Illinois that's still here. We're going to come back out here later in the program and learn a little bit more about this building. But first, I want to introduce you to a collector who has, well, a collection like you've never seen. Ed Bodecker for, I think you said for maybe 45 years?
Roughly 45 years.
Collecting things.
Yes.
How do you determine which things you're going to collect?
I look for patent dates. I'm a sucker for patent dates. And the railroad things, the globes and the frame of their lanterns are marked. Basically, they're all the same, but it's the railroad initials and the globes that you want to collect. And then I've gotten into China. This is all Wabash China here. Everything on this set of shelves is from the Wabash, except that N&W tablecloth down there on the bottom shelf.
Okay, and that's N&W, what is it,
Norfolk and Western.
Norfolk and Western, okay. Okay, everything else is
everything
Wabash.
Else
of
is
course, it's marked Wabash.
Wabash.
And you know, it kind of gives you an indication of how fancy traveling would have been at one time.
It was, yes, it was. It was the way to go.
And everything is branded. And we always make fun of ourselves these days, as branding everything. But even back then, this flag tells you something, doesn't it?
Yes, follow the flag. The way they got that, the pay cars, many years ago, the pay car, when they would come through the communities, would have flags on it. Well, that's how the name "Follow the Flag" came to be.
Okay, so would that have been a Wabash motto?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
And a branding mechanism for. And behind you, go ahead and point out what you're going to point out.
In 1954, the Wabash celebrated their 100th anniversary, and they gave these out as souvenirs. And this is the other side of it.
Beautiful.
These are collectible, but my dad and my grandpa and I went up there to that. And I've still got the three, there's the other two down there.
Sure.
The three tokens that we were given as souvenirs of that. We toured the car shops and the locomotive shops. The thing I remember, west of the locomotive shops, there was lines of steam engines, dead engines, waiting for the scrapper's torch. And I felt so bad about that. I've been a steam fan all my adult life.
That whole era, it was just going to be torn, obliterated.
Scrapped, obliterated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's look over here too, because this is also more of the same. But it goes to show what an enormous collection you have.
This is the same thing as this kind of an overflow shelf of the Wabash banner logo. And then the two bottom shelves are Marydale pattern. They were used on the Wabash, but they were a stock pattern, and you could buy those, that China, but it wasn't marked for the Wabash, but it was used on the Wabash.
You can't, of course, buy it anymore because they don't make it anymore. It's all collectors only. And you happen to be a pretty active one. And then above it, you've got, these are all railroad lights, I guess.
Yes, there's all switchman's lanterns from various roads. That one on the end, the red globe on the end, is from the Chicago and Illinois Midland. Or bought that at an auction here in town, but it would belong to a man over in Springfield at one time. These are all lanterns or globes. The silver pieces back there were from the Logansport, Peoria, and Burlington Railroad.
Wow.
And that goes back quite a ways, too.
And on lights here, these are good examples, but there's one in here that you particularly like that was kind of hard to find.
This is from the Wabash. and it's from the machinery department, and it's marked machinery department here on the lid, and also back here, machinery department. Now, in case you're wondering what these tags are, all this stuff that I've got in this collection, I'm not sure there's 100% of it, but 90-some% of it, those tags are keyed to my records that I've kept. And I've got 3 loose leaf notebooks of records.
You know exactly where and when you acquired every one of these items, huh? Wow.
Yes, I can, by looking at the tag and the page number. This has got the clear Wabash flag logo globe.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
This is a car inspector's lantern from the Wabash. It's marked on the top of the handle there.
Yep.
They burn kerosene.
Yeah. Well, they had, we're going to come back and look at some more of this stuff, but they had all kinds of ways to light up their cars and to make sure that they could actually be seen, that the stations could be seen from the tracks. What's this enormous light for?
That is a steam locomotive headlight. I bought that years ago. That happens to be, that's not the engine.
That's not it, is it? That's not a steamer. Okay.
That's steam, but that's not the engine.
Oh, it is steam?
Yeah, that's steam. It's got the elephant ears. They call these. That's the smoke lifter. When they were at speed, that smoke the air would come in there and it would lift the smoke out of the eyes of the engine crew. But that's a steam locomotive headlight. The 500, the number board, is off Chicago and Illinois Midland Railroad engine number 500.
And here's a picture of it.
That's a picture of it. And that is 2. Now, the way I identified that as being authentic, on this photograph, if you see, there's a paint chip on the loop of the 5, the bottom of the 5.
Yes, I do see it.
Well, that paint chip is still there.
It sure is.
Maybe a little
bit. You can see it right over here.
Yeah.
Right here, huh?
Yeah. And then that was another picture of it, and I've got several other pictures of the 500 too, when she was in service.
Well,
that was running without smoke.
Yeah.
They were running with a clear stack. That's what the railroad companies liked.
Now this Oliver company, is that a local company?
It used to be.
It's Oliver here. And what is this device for?
It's a track level gauge. And when they were laying tracks, they used those to get the track levels on curves. And this is the bottom one here on this is the same thing that's laying there on the floor. Price list, $48 a dozen when this was sold, or when it was new.
To make sure that one side of the track was level with the other side, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Oliver plant made Oliver farm machinery. And I worked there back in the 60s.
Oh, you did?
Yes. And they weren't making this then, though. They weren't making
this was in the past.
Yes,
but this is an example of some of the things that they made before.
Yes, long before I
Illinois
started
Central Railroad.
Yep, Illinois Central.
Look at all these lights. Ed, look at all.
Yeah, most of those are, well, some of those up there are switchman's lanterns. Some are oddball barn lanterns. This one right here, for instance, not necessarily a railroad, but it's got 2 globes, one inside the other one. And this little one here is a salesman's sample of that Buckeye lantern. These are switchman's lanterns. This one there is
the black one.
Yes, is a crossing watchman's lantern. They could take this and swing this at night like that. You see those snouts on this. That blocks the light, except when it's turned like that. Well, then it makes a blinking effect.
That'll get your attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the lenses are red, and it was both ways.
And was that kerosene?
Yes, burned kerosene. Yeah. This was long before the days of these automatic crossing signals.
Yeah. And look at this huge thing here. Now, was that a station lantern, or was that?
That's from a steam traction engine. A headlight from a traction engine. Mm-hmm. Those are the engines they used to use when they threshed on the farms.
Yeah.
And
well, could you actually use it at night then? Is that what
yeah.
that?
Yeah,
so it would light up enough that you could actually use the engine at night.
Well, I'm not sure how much light it actually gave.
Yeah, but they attempted it.
Yes, they attempted it. That
you can
was
see
the
there's a
technology.
photograph right there of it, and it's strapped to the front of that pipe, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a smokestack, and it rests on the top of the smoke box, and then it goes around that strap goes around the smokestack. Well, we've got that strap down there too on the bottom on the floor.
That's what straps it. Yeah.
Strapped it onto the stack.
Okay, well, you know, I know you love the railroads, and many of our viewers do too, but there are other things here that a farm family would need, or anybody before everything was mechanized would need lots of these things. So we're going to take a little time to look at some of the rest of your collection, okay?
Okay.
Ed, we have all kinds of mechanization to help us on the farm today, but back in the late 1800s, mid-late 1800s, almost everybody farmed. And they did it all by hand. So they had to invent a lot of these tools to make it possible for, in this case, to shell corn. Because when your corn comes in and after it dried and you got your harvest done, then you've got the winter to do some things. And you can take the seeds off the cob for next year's crop, or you can take it off the cob to feed your animals, so you can grind it up, feed your animals, but it's got to be taken off the cob, and you have to do it manually, and that's what these were all about, right? This top shelf, these were all corn shellers that were patented by the same man, an Illinois man.
James M. Hawley down at Odin, Illinois. It's east of Salem. And those were the 5 styles that he made over the years. This one right here with this piece that sticks down, that stood up and went into a hole in the board. And the only way to fasten that was to drive a wedge underneath the board into that hole.
Sure, just bolt it to the board. Okay.
Yes, it held it to the board. It wasn't very satisfactory because the thing, as you used it, that wedge would work loose. And some of this one up here, see that goes down
right. That's
below
being right. Sure.
See there how that's fastened underneath that. And
but as we can see here, this is what. Oh, that's gonna. Okay, but that would turn around, and what happens? How does it shell then?
Well, it's these jaws are spring loaded, and they've got a kind of a spiral in there that basically it's almost like threading the cob on those because of that spiral. It pulls it in.
Okay.
Well, then you use your whichever hand, your right hand. I'm right-handed. You use your right hand to turn that until the cob gets on through where it shells, and then it begins to interfere with your crank and your wrist. Well, then you switch hands.
Okay.
And you use, that's why these have two handles on them.
And then it works your way, it's like a screw. Or an auger, like an auger.
Yeah.
It screws its way through. It's empty on that side, and once it gets all the way through, you've got all the corn shelled off.
That's
of
right.
It. You've got a lot of examples of how this all works. I wanted to point these out, though, because they're an Illinois inventor.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, every farm had this annoying weed called buckhorn, right?
Yes.
And it was hard to cut, wasn't it?
Well, to a certain extent it was.
Yeah.
Most of that buckhorn was in yards, but and you all know what that is. It's stand on a stem about that high. It's got a little head on the thing. But this is a buckhorn mower.
No kidding. I don't know how you find this stuff, Ed.
I used to go around a lot.
I'll bet. Oh.
But that's the way that works, and the stems get caught in these prongs that holds them up.
Yeah.
But the blade, as you can see, will cut that.
Very close to the ground, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, isn't that cool? I've never heard of a buckhorn mower.
And this is the Standard Manufacturing Sales Corp, Lebanon, Indiana.
Yep.
Buckhorn mower. It's a Model M.
It sure is smooth. Man, that
It
thing is smooth.
It is smooth.
Now, will that stay up, or do we need to? Oh, here's a
Little wooden stopper.
Yeah, I got it
we can put it on the wheel there. Okay, it's good.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Oh, and those are other push mowers, right?
Yes, this is a real type. I got that because of the ornate castings on the wheels. And the one right behind it is a auto sickle. And I've got the patent papers on that. And the man that patented that was trying to develop a quick change blade. And it strictly depends on RPMs to cut. And if you got into something tall, it would bog down. And the third one is that sickle bar mower, the green and black one.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's got that sickle bar that goes, as you push it, it goes back and forth.
Come over here with me, Ed,
Okay.
because you're also fascinated with butter churns, and I am too. And again, we've got these brilliant methods of using levers and leverage to get it done. Yeah, and I just love. I particularly like this. Can I touch this?
Yes.
Okay. This is, I think you said it's a 3-to-1 ratio.
3-to-1 gear ratio, yes.
Okay. Now you can see. Imagine that jar there is full of milk. And how long am I going to have to do this to make butter?
Not very long.
Not very long. Really?
No.
Okay. So I turn it once, but it dips 3 times, right?
Yes. It goes up and down 3 times.
Wow, isn't that wonderful? They thought everything. But look at all the styles. Look at all the styles.
Some of them are daisy, some of them are banner.
Those are labels?
Yes.
Those are, okay.
The daisy churns, they made a lot of daisy churns. That was a very popular brand back.
Some of them are metal.
Yes.
That one looks like it's pottery
It
over
is.
there. Yeah. Pottery, I guess, was more expensive, huh?
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are those 2 different sizes of banners right there.
Which are 2 are we looking at? These
the
2 over
green
here?
ones, yes, the
Okay,
green
they're the
ones are
same
Banner.
company, but and green was their color, was Banner's
Yes.
color. Yep. And again, that would. And how many-
This is a part of a York churn. That I think is very rare too. Now, I'm not sure about the top on that, but anyway, it runs with like a sewing machine belt.
Yeah, I see the belt.
Treadle sewing machine belt, and it's got this flexible shaft right here. That's flexible, and then of course the dasher's down in there.
And who would have thought that there would be dozens and dozens and dozens of different styles of apple peelers? I mean, to peel an apple seems like, well, it's not simple. It's a difficult chore if you're going to invent a machine for it. But you would think there would be some sort of a uniform way of doing it. But all of these, you've got dozens of these, and they're all different. These are big, though. I mean, these are big
Well,
for apples.
These are commercial peelers here, and this one is that one is a Bonanza. You see these occasionally out there. This is the Rival. The other two.
Show us how it works.
Well, turn this crank. Now over here, you might have to come around on this side.
Okay, he's on the other side now. Yeah.
Now you put the apple on right here on that prong. And this is in. You force that in when you put the apple on those forks. And now you could turn it. Well, now right about there.
It's contacting the apple.
Yes, the peeler contacts the apple. And it goes around like that. Well, now it's peeled. This is the coring knife. And you continue to turn it, and that coring knife cuts the apple off of the core. The apple now is stuck on this knife.
Ah, it pulls it off.
Yeah. Well, and it's got a rod through here that as you continue to turn it, see that rod coming out there?
Yeah.
That pushes the
It's
core
gonna
off. And this over here, this finger that comes down, pushes the apple off of the coring.
Oh man, they
Knife.
thought of everything. They thought of everything. But still, only one apple at a time, right?
Yes, one
You do
apple
one
at a
apple
time.
at a time. And all these here, these big ones, are all, you know, they're all a different variety of the same. They do the same job.
job.
And then you've also got. Oh,
This
okay.
one
What
is
are we looking at?
This one is LF&C, Landers, Frary, and Clark. But this works essentially the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the coring tube.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something else.
And then over here, this is what amazes me about you. You can't stop with 5 apple peelers. You got an entire wall of them, and these are much smaller, of course. But they all do the same thing, don't they?
Basically the same thing, yeah. Some just peel, some will peel and core. But this is one of my favorite pieces. This is a segmenter. And you put the apple on prongs right there.
Okay.
And as you turn, these are the knives right in here.
Okay.
As you turn that, you see how that index
It's
is
turning.
around?
Yeah, it's turning. Yeah.
Every time you make a pass through that, it cuts a segment out of the apple.
Mm-hmm.
This thing was patented, I think it was in 1856. Yeah, 1856.
You remembered that.
But when you get done, all you've got is the core there on that. First time I ever saw one of these, I was just absolutely fascinated with it.
1856.
Yeah.
This is also an unusual one. This is not a
Yes.
peeler,
That's a slicer.
a slicer. Obviously, you can see what you're going to get about maybe 10 slices out of an apple with
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
These 6 here are all the different styles that Lockheed and Howland made. That brass right there, that's a slicer, sun slicer, and you pull that lever back and put the apple in there, and then one push, and it slices through those brass blades.
Well, another staple from apples to eggs. And of course, everybody cooked with eggs all the time because eggs were easily, you had them on the farm. But you had to beat the egg, and every household chore has these things that were created just for that chore. And these are egg beaters, a whole wall of egg beaters.
All there. Yeah.
I'll be darned. Some of these are very unusual, and I think this one. Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to demonstrate this for us and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, this is called an express. It was patented in 1887, sometimes called a fly swatter beater. But you
looks
watch
like
how this thing works. This truly beats the egg, it doesn't stir it. And that's how the thing works.
It goes up and down
Up and
and
down.
sideways.
Yes.
Yeah. And it does look like a fly swatter.
Miniature fly swatter.
I'll be doggone. So this one really worked.
Oh,
This
yeah.
one worked and was successful. Some of
Yeah.
them really didn't work all that well, did they?
No, I've got one down here that is called Dodge Race Course. There's only supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 of these in existence, but I don't know who comes up with those numbers.
Collectors.
Yeah. But anyway, this is the way it works, like that. Well, those gears would get clogged up, see?
Oh.
That's why it wasn't successful.
So you'd have to pull it out of the egg and clean it up and put it back in the egg
Yes,
again, and
then-
pretty soon you got to lose your patience with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's why they're so rare.
Yeah. Okay, so also back in the late 1800s and early 1900s in central Illinois, coal mining was one of the major industries. And every one of these coal miners had to go down into the hole with some kind of light. And you've got an entire collection here of those little lanterns that they would take with them.
Some of them burned this, what's called sunshine oil. It was a hard oil made by the Standard Oil Company. And it came in a block, and it would melt just slightly above body temperature so they could keep it in their pockets. But some of them did that.
Yeah.
And then this is one of the soft caps that they would wear. And this particular piece here, it's a wick lamp. It was patented by Julius Watts, Springfield, Illinois, on July 5th, 1892. and it's got a sliding wick adjuster on it right there. And these fit on the cap like that.
Oh, I see. So every binder had his own little, all he had was a little flame, right?
Yeah, very small flame.
So just enough to see your way through the through the mine. Oh, and how
course
dangerous that is. They have
Yeah.
all those live flames going all the time.
Open lights in a gassy mine was a
man.
recipe for danger.
And it happened too, didn't it? It
Yes,
happened
and
regularly.
a week it did.
Yeah.
It was a recipe for disaster.
Hey, Ed, I want you to do one more thing for us while we're here. We can't see your whole collection, but it's most impressive. But would you go out to the Chautauqua with us and,
Yes.
and show us, tell us a little bit about it? It's a one-of-a-kind building. There aren't
It
many
is.
left.
No.
And we'd like to learn a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Ed, they're not making any more Chautauqua buildings. In fact, most of them have deteriorated and fallen apart and just been dismantled. But
They are.
in Shelbyville, the old 1903 Chautauqua still stands, and it's something to behold, isn't it?
It is. It's there's 24 sides. Was like you said, built in 1903. It was the Trout brothers who had a bridge company here in Shelbyville. And there's some patent information inside there, which we can't get into because of the rather deteriorated condition of the building. Now, there was a non-binding referendum back in March, and the citizens of this community from that would like to see it restored. But I am appalled at the amount of money it takes to do anything anymore.
Oh my goodness, yes. Because well, you know, you have to hire a company that has special skills.
Yes.
And there aren't many that can handle something like this. You were describing the interior of the building to me. It has no internal supports, does
No
it?
internal supports. There's what they call a king post that is suspended from the ceiling, and there are rods and turnbuckles on those rods that radiate out like the spokes of a wheel to each one of these corners of this. As you can see, like there's 24 corners, that'd mean there's but 24 of those rods and turnbuckles in there. But there's nothing in there to obstruct the view of any of the spectators of the stage.
Right. And for those who don't know about Chautauquas, this was a movement that started in New York and worked its way across the country. And this was for people in the between 1900 and the 20s or so to get information and entertainment that they didn't have access to any other way. Isn't that right?
That's true. And there were a lot of cabins and tents and food stands out here. This was the place to go back in the early 1900s. And
They usually were held in July or August, you know,
Yes.
and of course there was no air conditioning, so they would try to pick places where there was water available, or a spring, maybe a cold water spring to keep people cooled off. They'd throw their tents, or they'd have cabins out here, and they'd all come out for a week, and they'd have a big time.
and they'd have a wonderful time.
Yeah, they'd catch up on everything that was working, that was new in the world.
They could open the windows up on that top area, and they opened the doors. Well, that made a kind of a draft through, as you see, and took the heat out.
Yeah.
But today it's just a shadow of what it was back in, say, 1900.
But it is still a shadow. Ed, I want to thank you for joining us out here and
That's
filling
all
us in
right.
on it. Best of luck to everybody in Shelbyville and Shelby County who voted to have this restored. It's one of a kind. There aren't many left, and it would be certainly wonderful if they could pull it off. Thank you to Ed again for showing us a collection, and thank you for joining us on Illinois Stories. See you next time.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.